Hello and welcome to the Fearless Public Speaking Workshop. Now, this is workshop part 1. Really delighted to have you here. Thank you for joining us, and let us get started. So first of all, in terms of online expectations and results, I know that people will often say, and as we've got many today that cannot make it live today, but you'll be catching the replay recording. One of the questions I get a lot from, particularly from people who have not worked with me before, is does this work when they're not there live and if they're watching a replay recording? Because there's also an audio component to this potentially in terms of the backup recording, should anything happen, I'm going to read what it says on screen. So those of you who are here can read it. If you're watching it on a small device, maybe you can't, you might be squinting. So I'm going to read what it says on screen, just to give you a flavor. So it says, and this is from Rachel CK, it says, for those of you who were asking me about my big talk in January and shared my joy that I was so happy with how it had gone, Marilyn Devonish is the awesome lady that enabled me to breathe, think and talk all at the same time. And now you can do it too, exclamation mark. Whether you get nervous in social settings, on social media, speaking in one-to-one meetings, small groups or big stages, these techniques work. I'm tapping into what I learned almost every day now. So what's holding you back from sharing your passions or knowledge? Rachel CK, educator, natural life coach, awesome mama, and oil lover. And the reason it says oil lover is she does the doTERRA aromatherapy oils. One thing also to say in terms of public speaking and presenting, when I mention someone's name, or when I show their photograph, it is because they've given me permission to. You will know if you've worked with me before and you send me an amazing email, message, whatever it is, I'll say, fantastic. Sometimes I would say, do you mind me sharing that? And I always say, would you like to remain anonymous, or is it okay that I name you? The reason I ask is people are often happy to share. They just don't want to be named. And of course, when you can name someone and you can show their picture and show that they are a real person, and you can go and look her up on Facebook, you can message her, I'm sure she'll be happy to answer. That gives even more weight and credibility to what you're doing. So for those of you who will be running your own workshops, your own presentations, this is something I suggest that you get into the habit of doing. But coming back to why I'm sharing this with you, Rachel took the original version of the Fearless Public Speaking workshop. It was a one-day workshop and it was on demand. What that meant was I was on holiday at the time in Gran Canaria. This was in January 2020, just before we went into lockdown. I decided to take a random holiday and got out just before. So I was on holiday in Gran Canaria. I was sitting by the swimming pool on the sun lounger. Rachel was taking my workshop, so I was not physically there. So whether you're, of course, if you're here live, even better, because you get to interact. You can ask me questions as we go along. And even if you're not able to make it live, but you're watching the replay recording, these processes still work if you work it and do the work. So why this program? Some of the reasons, some of the rationale, and also some of the solutions we'll be providing. Common reasons for signing up, as I was going through the surveys and listening to what people were saying and what they've been sharing on some of the live sessions. Some people are scared of public speaking, Facebook Live, streaming, Zoom, or even contributing at in-person meetings. One of the things that happened when we went into Zoom Nation, as I call it, there was often no more hiding. Whether you wanted to or not, you were often quite literally in the spotlight, because they would come to you, your camera was there, all eyes were on you. Many people are really scared of those scenarios. Some have turned down speaking opportunities. Someone who filled in the survey very kindly shared that they've been invited back to speak at their university alumni, and they turned it down because it took them beyond their comfort zone and their threshold. They were happy to speak to very small groups, but the thought of the university alumni was too much. So they unfortunately missed out on what I'm sure could have been a really fantastic opportunity. And one of the things I don't want is people missing out on opportunities that could be great for them, and actually they'd really like to do if they could get over the fear and worry and the nerves and anxiety. It may be that you have a message that you want to share. I know many of you are entrepreneurs, or you're thinking of starting your own businesses, whether that's doing that alongside what you're doing or doing it full time. Oftentimes you will then need to be the face of your business. And even if you hire someone to do that, there are times where you are required to talk about what you do, why you do it, how you do it, what's special about it, what are the benefits. And that's another big one that was coming up for people. Some are just nervous at the thought of presenting to groups, be that small groups or large groups. maybe you're in the place where you've realized that the practice that you've been trying to do and forcing and pushing yourself into it hasn't made perfect, and you're still in that place of fear and worry and anxiety, even though you may have tried to push yourself forwards before and done some other things to support that. Many just feel sick at the thought of public speaking, and there are others who need to speak to the media, but you fear making a mistake or making a fool of yourself. Also, in terms of things people worry about. So do you worry about keeping your audience engaged? You don't want to bore your audience. People talk about forgetting blank and in terms of what to say and going blank on stage, being overtaken by the nerves and anxiety. So you have that rabbit in the headlight things. Others worried about speaking to large audiences. Many people shared the concern about how long it takes to learn and recall and remember a presentation. For others, it was how to structure your thoughts and material. So all the ideas might be there, the thoughts are there, but oh my gosh, how do you get these into some semblance of order? That was a big one for many people. Having the audience look at you and focus on you where you are the center of attention. Many people did not like that idea of being the point of focus. Others were saying it's about staying on track. So we've got someone, for example, specifically, they pitched to investors. So how do you stay on track? How do you make your point? And also, how do you manage to be spontaneous along the way so you don't then get too rigid in what you're doing? How to prepare and be confident at short notice. Well, definitely I'll share some examples with you about how that's played out in real life for me. And the whole thing about feeling like an imposter was something people worried about as well. So I'd say just thinking about where are you, which do you resonate with? Also, people will say they were nervous or anxious at the thought of going live, be that live streaming on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, whatever their flavor of choice was. It might be that if you haven't been able to get out of, let's say, speaking or presenting at a meeting or leading a team session, or you've been invited to do a talk or presentation and you really can't get out of it. I know for many people, they will say it keeps them up at night. I've had some waking up in cold sweats, oh my gosh, as the day is looming. And if it's in the diary far in advance, they're actually worrying about it for weeks or even months. That is just soul destroying. It might be that your job requires an element of presenting. So you find creative ways, as I used to do before I overcame my fear of public speaking, to put it off and to get out of actually doing it. There's the thought of dread that comes as you hover over the go live button. You know, maybe that there are massive benefits to speaking, to presenting, be that one to many or even one-on-one, but you are still putting it off. And it may be that you doubt people want to hear what you've got to say. You maybe doubt the value you're bringing, maybe doubt, do you have the gravitas, as we used to call it in the corporate days, or the authority to do it? So those are some of the things also. So what I would say is just kind of notice where you fit into that and what most resonates with you, and even start making a note of where you're at now, because it's always useful to benchmark, and it's always wonderful to come back to that weeks, months, or even years later and go, oh my goodness, that's where I started. So be thinking about that. Now, who is this program for? Having said all of that, if you want to be more eloquent, feel relaxed and calm when you are presenting, stay on track, have a plan, and also have the room and the confidence to be spontaneous. If you want to make a greater impact when you speak, pretty much creating that wow factor so that people are like, oh my gosh, wow, that was amazing. If you want to love public speaking, someone in one of the surveys, it made me smile when I read it, they said they want public speaking to be like a positive drug, where they enjoy it so much, they almost can't get enough of it. They're looking forward to the next one. And it's actually a sense of joy and excitement as the next engagement goes in the diary. It may be that you're looking for effortless ways to prepare your presentation. And I've said dash at speed, because one of the things we're looking at today is a 5-minute presentation mapping process, from blank sheet of paper to your presentation outline in 5 minutes. We are doing that as an exercise during this session today. It may be that you want to be unscripted and still be compelling, even though you're not following a script and everything you think you should say. It's about people who want to be confident delivering either in person or online. Also going to show you some ways to remember and recall what you want to say more easily. I've got 3 wonderful memory boosting techniques we'll share for you, and how to keep your audience engaged and deliver value. So we're going to start looking at the audience piece in terms of getting inside the mind of the audience, so that when you are designing something, you know it's in alignment with what they want, what they need, what they're looking for, and what it would be most useful for them to hear. So that's the rationale for the program, who it is for. So notice what you notice where you are. What I also want to do is talk to you just for a few moments about how to enhance your results